7.0 earthquake hit off the Solomon Islands. That's near Papua New Guinea, right near Australia. And we're told now that there's warnings. Widespread hazardous tsunami waves are possible. This just breaking on our wires. More on this developing story.
Aftershocks are thought to be causing small tsunami waves in the Solomon Islands after a powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck on Friday. Nearby Australia says it's ready to help if needed.
I was in the Solomon Islands this week and I'm, of course, deeply concerned at the impact of this natural disaster on the people of Solomon Islands. The Australian government has in place pre-positioned supplies for shelter, water, sanitation, food. If they are required, we can work with the local authorities and with the government of Solomon Islands to provide them.
The authorities in the South Pacific nations say so far they've found no evidence of casualties or widespread damage. Communication, however, can be difficult across the archipelago, which has 900 islands.
A tsunami alert has been issued in the Pacific Islands after a powerful earthquake. It's feared the tsunami could hit the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea and Nauru in the next 3 hours. The area is known as the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of fault lines circling the Pacific Basin, which is prone to frequent and large earthquakes.
pair of long-range nuclear-capable bombers around Taiwan for the very first time. And it happened less than a week before President-elect Trump took that congratulatory phone call, as it's been described, from Taiwan's leader. Lucas Tomlinson is live at the Pentagon. He's part of the team breaking this story. Lucas, what do we know about this so far?
Well, Jenna, we know that the flight took place less than a week before President-elect Donald Trump spoke to the Taiwanese president. A pair of Chinese nuclear-capable H-6 bombers flew from a base in mainland China, escorted by 2 other planes. They were doing surveillance, conducted a flight around the island of Taiwan, as you said, for the first time, and we drew a response from the Japanese Air Force, who scrambled 8 F-15 fighter jets to take a look at this unprecedented Chinese flight. And some would say aggression, although one U.S. expert that we spoke to was not surprised at all.
China has steadily built up a massive military capability in the area around Taiwan. This isn't simply a matter of flying bombers. Understand that technically we can't object to flying bombers near Taiwan if we are flying combat aircraft and reconnaissance aircraft near China.
And Jenna, this isn't, of course, the only threat facing the new president-elect and his administration. Russia continues to challenge the current administration. Just in the last few weeks, Russia has deployed anti-ship, anti-surface, and short-range ballistic missiles to Kaliningrad, a Russian enclave in Europe which borders Poland and Lithuania, and they're in range of many Western European capitals. Last week, I went out to the USS George H.W. Bush, a 100,000-ton warship conducting flight operations in the Atlantic Ocean, getting prepared for its next deployment. I asked the commanding officer of the ship about the challenges he faces.
It is absolutely vital that we understand that Russia's capability has been reinvigorated, and they have certain interests that are divergent from ours. So we need to understand their capability as well as understand strategically what they intend to do, so that if required, we can counter that.
Jenna, that aircraft carrier launched the first airstrikes against ISIS in August of 2014. 2.5 years later, that aircraft carrier is returning to the fight. Now, in a tit-for-tat last week, the U.S. State Department approved a weapons package to Poland to the tune of $200 million of air-to-surface missiles going to Poland, which shows the challenges that still exist. And one other bit of news, Jenna, on Saturday, another Russian fighter jet crashed attempting to land aboard its aircraft carrier in the eastern Mediterranean, the Admiral Kuznetsov. So we'll be watching all the latest and reporting.
A lot of hot spots around the world, that's for sure. Lucas, thank you.
Turn now to our world lead, a death trap in eastern Aleppo, Syria. The United Nations says that 100,000 civilians are trapped in the ever-shrinking rebel-held enclave as regime forces are making their final push to wrest control of the embattled city with relentless bombardment and heavy shelling. Even for those who have managed to escape, their hardships are far from over. Tens of thousands of civilians, many children, many elderly, are now homeless. CNN senior international correspondent Fred Pleitgen has been in Aleppo for 8 days and has this report.
This is what the Syrian army's alleged halt in fighting looks like in Aleppo. The call to prayer pierced by explosions and gunfire as Bashar al-Assad's forces continue to pound the rebels. Aid groups like the Red Crescent working around the clock to try to provide help for the growing tide of displaced.
We trying to take her to hospital. All the hospitals were targeted, so I couldn't continue my way, and I went back home.
small Tennessee resort towns north of the Great Smoky Mountains. Residents and visitors fleeing downtown Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge under mandatory evacuations as a windstorm reaching up to 80 miles an hour stoked the flames, threatening at least 100 homes and businesses. Heavy smoke and an orange sky hung over downtown Gatlinburg, the roads packed with motorists trying to get out of town. The wind downing power lines and trees, sparking even more smaller fires.
This will be one that I will always remember in my career. I mean, when you go into the city of Gatlinburg, there is fire on all sides of the city.
The Park Service calls this a perfect storm of drought conditions coming together with strong, sustained winds. Some 1,200 people were holed up in shelters, with 12,000 left without power.
Wildfires threatening popular resort towns in East Tennessee, including the 16-story Hilton Hotel. This amateur video posted on social media shows the raging fires just outside the hotel's windows. Guests anxiously watching from inside.
So you're the one that's kind of staring out the window, the front doors or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about, so how did you know something was wrong?
Told us that the fires were about 2 miles away and that if anything would happen, that they would evacuate us. And literally, like, 10 minutes after they told us that we had the time if we needed time to evacuate, the fires were coming up over the hill and right in front of the hotel, and then they told us that we couldn't leave because the only road to get down from the hotel, trees had fallen into the road and it was just engulfed in flames. And
when did you leave?
We're still at the hotel.
Oh, you're still there?
Yes, but we can't leave.
As in you can't physically leave?
Yeah, we can't go outside. The firefighters said that the wind they're blowing at like 80 miles per hour, and the debris in the air they said it's just too hard. It's too hard to get us down right now.
Do you feel safe?
But
Go. In a race against the wildfires.
Everything is burning around us. Every cabin, everything.
A 15-minute drive down a mountain in Chalet Village turned into a life or death escape.
That's where we got stuck.
Stepbrothers Michael Luciano and Anthony Fulton say they had no warning of what was coming.
I said, we gotta go, and when we went, I could not believe what I just seen. Everything was on fire. Everything was on fire.
The two packed what little they could grab into their truck.
Hit the gas! Hit the gas!
Running into downed power lines and several trees blocking the road.
Going through that tree, being stuck there for that 1 or 2 minutes, it felt like 10. You thought, if you don't get out of here, you're going to die. Please, Lord, let us get off this mountain.
And as their prayers were answered to escape the fire,
God. Everything is burning around us. Every cabin, everything. Please, Lord, let us get off this mountain. We'll get out of it. Hit the gas. I can't see. You can see. Fuck. Hit the gas. Hit the gas.
What do you mean?
We're dealing with the worst possible conditions imaginable. If you are a person that prays, we could use your prayer. If you are a person that prays, we could use your prayer.
Oh my gosh. This is not good. This is so close to the resort. So close to, oh my God, it's so hot. Jesus.
This is on the spur in Gatlinburg. Watch some of the heat off of it. This is crazy.
What's trending this morning? Those wildfires in Tennessee just caused widespread damage across the area. One of the places affected, the Dollywood theme park, and one of their employees was cleaning up some of the debris in the park and found this, a page from the Bible. The page from Joel chapter 1 says, "To you, Lord, I call, for fire has devoured the pastures in the wilderness, and flames have burned up all the trees of the field." Isaac McCord is that employee who found it, works in the HR department at Dollywood, says he found the page under a bench and it was soaking wet, posted it on Facebook, and it's been shared 125,000 times. So it just gave him goosebumps when he found that.
Hello everyone, I'm Tom Cook, and a man posted this on Facebook this morning, a piece of a Bible he found near Dollywood, the theme park in Tennessee that was nearly burned by those wildfires. But it's the Bible verses that survived, he says, that gave him goosebumps. Joel 1:19, "To you, Lord, I call, for fire has devoured the pastures in the wilderness, and flames have burned up all the trees of the field." Joel 1:20, "Even the beasts of the field pant for you, because water brooks are dried up, and fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness." Isaac McCord says the verses that survived gave him goosebumps. He hashtagged it, "Pray for Gatlinburg."
The venue packed with young people at a dance party when the fire broke out. Teams are still going through the wreckage this morning, and a criminal investigation is now underway.
The warehouse, known as the Ghost Ship, functioned as an artist collective and living space. Fire officials describing tinderbox conditions inside.
It was 11:32 p.m. Friday when the calls came in. A party at this Oakland warehouse, an artist collective, was erupting into an inferno of flames, ripping through windows.
Like seeing everything, like this orange wall of fire, it was, I don't know, it felt like seeing a monster.
And officials tell us they are expecting the worst while hoping for the best.
This morning, in the last few minutes, an update on the number of lives lost.
And it is staggering. We now know 24 people are confirmed dead, up from 10 last night. Officials say that number is likely to rise.
Good evening, I'm Elaine Quijano. At least 33 bodies have been recovered from a converted warehouse that burned to the ground in Oakland this weekend. Officials expect to find more.
Friday night's fire, the dead include teenagers and the son of a local sheriff's deputy, as well as people from other countries, Europe and Asia. 33 victims recovered so far, and that number is expected to rise.
A desperate search for any survivors of Oakland's deadliest fire. 33 lives lost, and the grim reality tonight, that death toll could rise even higher.
A house of horrors, those chilling words now describing the scene of a deadly warehouse fire in California where more than 30 people were killed.
Rescue crews now searching bucket by bucket as dozens of families pray for word of their missing loved ones.
Battalion Chief Melinda Drayton says firefighters are now going through the ashes by hand, one bucket at a time, searching for victims.
Shovels and removing debris bucket by bucket. Good morning, Clayton and Heather. You can see the warehouse behind me, and the stories coming from the firefighters who are combing through every inch of it are heartbreaking and grim. They're describing finding bodies, one piled on top of another.
When I started last night, we found the first one almost instantaneously, single victim. We found 3 grouped together, 6 grouped together, 4 grouped together, and then another single.
What does that tell you?
We are looking at bodies on top of each other. It does not appear that they were able to get out of the second floor.
I have 4 friends that are still unaccounted for. They're amazing, and I'm sorry for, everyone's loss. It's the people I didn't know. It's just, I can't even, it's mind-blowing.
Knew what happened, and I spoke out, and nobody did anything.
Now, this graveyard of a former warehouse is now little more than a charred carcass.
The area that the roof collapsed was where we lived.
What's left is too dangerous for fire investigators to get inside.
We've got some areas where the steel is actually twisted and wrapped in the back of the building.
The area that the roof collapsed was where we lived.
When it was over, the warehouse was reduced to rubble. This morning, as firefighters continue their grim round-the-clock search, a criminal investigative team from the DA's office is now on scene, looking into whether Oakland's deadliest fire in history is a crime.
We have now started to recover and identify victims who are minors. We do have some children in the ages of 17 years old. Possibly younger.
33 victims have been located and have been recovered. 33 families are grieving. 33 families have lost loved ones.
The names come as investigators comb through the rubble tonight looking for more bodies. Eyewitness News reporter Leticia Juarez is live in Oakland with the latest on the search tonight. Leticia.
Well, 48 hours after that fire erupted, search teams are still pulling bodies out of that rubble, and they still tell us they have a lot of ground to cover.
Authorities say debris in the form of ornate wood carvings and tapestries hung from the ceiling fueled the blaze.
Video from inside the warehouse, dubbed Ghost Ship, shows the underground party just an hour before flames tore through the building.
Flames so hot and widespread that it caused the roof to collapse onto people below. One young woman describes the nightmare of trying to escape. She says,
seeing like everything, like this orange wall of fire, it was, I don't know, it felt like seeing a monster.
Eric and Kristen, Derek, Almina, and his wife are staying here at the Oakland Marriott City Center. We spotted them as they came out of the elevator about 10:45 this evening. They were surprised to see us and tried to walk away from us. Almina is the man who ran the illegal artist enclave at the Ghost Ship warehouse. Since the fire, stories have been surfacing about how he allegedly ignored repeated warnings that his artist enclave was a death trap. He was then criticized for a Facebook post soon after the fire that many thought to be insensitive, saying how upset he was about losing his furniture and art collection. Well, tonight we asked him what he would like to say to the 33 families who lost their loved ones.
Y'all did, totally, bro. Oh my God, I'm tripping out. Oh, what's going on now? Oh my God.
Trampled by the parents. I'd rather let them tear at my flesh than answer these ridiculous questions.
Mr. Almina,
I'm so sorry. I'm incredibly sorry. What do you want me to say? I'm not going to answer these questions.
Then we will call
I'm just going to say that I am sorry.
Then we'll end the interview there, Mr. Almina.
If you have to hold my soul accountable, if you have to hold my soul accountable for believing in something.
Meanwhile, the community coming together to pay their respects to the victims. An outpouring of grief in Oakland. Candles, flowers, and heartfelt notes make up a memorial for the victims of a deadly warehouse fire. Clement Wu came with flowers for a co-worker listed among the missing.
She knows a lot of people care for her, and she was a great person. I wish that she wish that she was still here, and I hope that she's still here, and she's just missing.
Once again be graced with Mary, baby Jesus, Joseph, and a huge snake. The Satanic Temple of Detroit is planning on putting up a display called Snaketivity in response to the traditional nativity scene. The Satanic Temple says it hopes its Snaketivity display will start a conversation about religious diversity. The display features a cross, a red snake, and a sign reading, "The greatest gift is knowledge."
Controversy over a satanic display in Sanborn Square in downtown Boca Raton continues tonight. The pentagram that was vandalized with spray paint this week has been updated. Preston Smith installed the display next to a nativity scene on Tuesday. He now says it's been replaced with a new sign provided by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. A protest against the sign is planned for next Tuesday. Smith is asking the community for tolerance, asking residents to take up the issue with local government instead of what he calls discriminatory.
Clergy leaders spoke out about a pentagram on display in the city's Holiday Square. The mayor said free speech laws force the city to allow a man to place a satanic symbol on public property. But the mayor added that it is hateful and said that she does not support its message. Clergy members call it an evil symbol.
And we also felt it was spiritually harmful to the well-being of our community. And our religious traditions, Jewish, Christian, and Islamic, support values of justice, mercy, and peace. And we also felt it was spiritually harmful to the well-being of our community. And our religious traditions, Jewish, Christian, and Islamic, support values of justice, mercy, and peace.
Someone spray painted the pentagram overnight. The man who put it up regularly pushes for a separation between
satanic display. It's causing some controversy in downtown Boca Raton. On the same day, the city will celebrate its holiday parade, and now local clergy members are responding. WPTV News Channel 5's Stephanie Susskind is live at Sanborn Square. Stephanie, a lot of people I know who have not seen this are certainly going to be doing a double take.
Yes, good morning, Holly. Let's show you what we're talking about. It's this pentagram right here behind me. It actually went up yesterday, and you can see there is now silver spray paint covering the banner next to it, as well as covering parts of it. It looks like somebody painted over it. Not sure exactly when that happened, but sometime between when this went up in the park yesterday and when we arrived here this morning. Now, this is one area where people will come out to watch tonight's holiday parade. Bleachers are set up. There's also an nativity scene right here in the park as well. Now, the man behind this satanic display is Preston Smith. The city of Boca Raton did give him a permit to put up the display, and the Freedom from Religion Foundation provided it. Now, Smith sent us a statement that says in part, quote, "Love trumps hate. The First Amendment must be protected, including the freedom to offend." Now, there is a group of local interfaith clergy members who are not happy about this display. They also sent us a statement. They tell us they will be gathering here at 9 o'clock this morning to put up a banner in the park. That banner will read in part, quote, "While we respect the freedom of speech, a satanic symbol is offensive and harmful to our community."
'Tis the season for holiday decorations, but a display in one South Florida city has many people feeling disturbed. A satanic symbol appearing next to other religious displays.
And it's becoming the talk of the town just weeks before the holidays. 7's Nicole Ensalada has a story now from Boca.
We're ready to make this an annual tradition.
Not the lights, not the parade. They're already established traditions. Preston Smith is referring to this, a 20-foot pentagram with a carving of Satan in the center.
That's a disgrace. How do they allow that?
It's allowed here next to the nativity scene because the city of Boca Raton considers Sanborn Square a free speech zone and granted Preston Smith a permit to put up the display. But the words and even the carving are now covered with spray paint hit by vandals less than a day after it went up.
We expect to restore the sculpture of Satan to its former glory.
This is what it looked like before. Smith says he's not a Satanist, but is in fact working with the group Freedom from Religion Foundation. He'd ideally like to see all displays like this gone.
We will drag them into the new century, kicking and screaming the whole way.
Local churches responding with this banner, calling the satanic display offensive and shameful.
And we also felt it was spiritually harmful to the well-being of our community.
If it's not a religion, it shouldn't be here during this religious season.
If it's been entered and approved and it's here, then we should not even question that.
Well, you can see that all the words are still covered by spray paint, but Preston Smith says all of this will be replaced and that the Freedom from Religion Foundation will be putting up a reward to find whoever did this. Reporting in Boca Raton, Nicole Ensalada for Today in Florida.
Knightsville over a cross that is part of its Christmas display. Take a look at the pictures of the display. You will see the Latin cross on top of the Christmas tree. Now, the Civil Liberties Union has sued on behalf of a town resident, claiming that display violates the separation of church and state. The suit seeks monetary damages, as well as to force the town to remove the
It's hard to believe that this is going on.
I think it's kind of ridiculous.
You got to sit down and talk about it before you file the lawsuits.
Every one of the Knightstown residents we found near the square said the same thing. They can't understand why one of their neighbors would sue their town over the annual Christmas display.
In my opinion, I think it's a little bit of disgrace, I think, to our town.
The ACLU filed the lawsuit against Knightstown on behalf of Joseph Tompkins, who lives there. The case documents show Tompkins takes issue with the cross at the top of the tree. It says Tompkins, quote, is forced to come into direct and unwelcome contact with the cross display every day, which has caused him irreparable harm.
A couple weeks ago, they had a crowd here. Everybody was here. They lit the tree. Everybody was fine with it. But now you got one person, you know, out of everybody.
Mark Tompkins is related to Joseph Tompkins. Mark says he doesn't buy the claim that Joe has been harmed in any way by seeing the cross.
There's a church on every corner here. There's a church on every corner. Is he, offended by all the crosses?
The lawsuit does specify that Joe Tompkins doesn't want his taxes helping light and maintain a religious display on town property. A man who lives next to the display says they can solve that by giving Joe his money back.
I think we can find people in this town that can replace that 0.00% of the cent to give to him and not have to worry about it.
Everyone I spoke to says they support the town fighting this legal battle. And if the cross has to come down, Mark Tompkins has a solution for that too.
He can take it down, and I'll tell you what, I'll park this car here until Christmas Day with 3 crosses on it. He can take it down, and I'll tell you what, I'll park this car here until Christmas Day with 3 crosses on it.